How's it going?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm good. So, okay, what do you think? What do you think on the topic? Are childless single men past 40? I mean, are they winning, or is this a failure?
Well, like I did comment on that community post, and I do believe that there's literally like a one deciding factor, like you mentioned, which is whether or not they have money, whether or not their pockets are
Whether or not they have money, facts.
exactly. So if you're 40 and single and childless and all these things, I wouldn't say you're necessarily winning if you're like, low earning, low performing, low income. When I say like income wise, I mean like where your next 100K is coming from, or where your next million is coming from because you've done it already. And most men meet their peak at between 50, some like 40, 50 years old. They're not like women. So I do believe that if your pockets are straight, women will just come. Women are a side effect. You can build a life that you want. But if your pockets are not straight, unfortunately, like society will punish you. Women will punish you. You just will not be like living up to the standard. So I do believe that, like, if you're 40 and single and childless and your money is straight, absolutely. As a man, you are definitely winning. Yes.
So what you're saying is it's all dependent upon the money.
Yeah.
Let's forget about the other stuff. The deciding factor is whether you have money or not. That's really what's going to keep you engaged in the conversation.
Right.
As women. And I actually mentioned this a few weeks ago where I was having a panel with different women. We were talking about Kevin Samuels. And my question was like, okay, would he even be appealing to the masses if he didn't have such a good polished image? And they're all just like,
nah. I also about Kevin Samuels, like I'm not like a huge Kevin Samuels like fan or follower.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Yeah, because I really don't believe that, his image is one thing, but I don't think that he's exactly telling men like how to produce or how to be better, how to elevate. He's always like the women. So I'm not saying, there's both sides to every coin. And I don't know, I haven't seen like what does Kevin Samuels produce? What is he like given, what has he done aside from having a large platform? So the proof is in the pudding to me. He can say all he wants that he's like a high value, high this, high that. I don't see the fruits of that. Unfortunately, I don't. But I do believe there is some like, I don't want to say some merit in like his message, but yeah, but at the same time, like I said, the deciding factor is literally, are your pockets deep? The report card of your life is like, how have you, produced? How have you been self-sufficient? How can you replicate that first 100,000 or first million or whatever it is that you're making? Like, can you do that? And if you're 40 and single and also doing that, then yes, more power to you. You're killing it.
Right. So like I said, it goes right down to the money. It rolls right down for the money. And now, do you believe that if the genders were swapped, say it was a single childless woman over 40, is she winning? If the genders were swapped, would your answer be the same, or would it be a different answer?
Unfortunately, it'd be different. I do believe it's biology. If you're 40, childless, single, I don't think you're winning, because that puts you out of the sexual marketplace. Like, men are not honestly checking for you. It's a sad, unfortunate truth, but I don't believe that men are going to be looking for over 40, because then they may want kids. Like you're the guy you mentioned of 37 having his fourth child, like he may want kids. And at 40, 45, if you're a female, like that's going to look very difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible because we have medicine, but it'll be very difficult. And men want prime. They want the prime pickings. That's why you see, I think it was Marquez Houston who just married like a 21-year-old and he's 40. And like I saw like Essence was like up in arms. They're like, oh, he's like marrying a 20-year-old, and they were so mad. I'm like, you don't understand. That literally is prime picking. She is coachable. She is a clean slate. She's all these things. Like she's not,
Right.
So like, unfortunately for women, like, that's literally the reality of it. And I think it's a sad reality that some of us have to, come to the realization and face. So
yeah, no, that's I think that's facts. I think that is I couldn't agree more. Now, I guess, I mean, depending on how you define winning, right? But if we're just sticking to how we define winning generally after this point is, women being measured based upon their relationships. I know that people are trying to change that, especially in the modern era. We're trying to change that, but at least for hundreds of thousands of years, women's worth and value within a lot of different contexts was directly related to their family, their ability to maintain relationships, families, things like that. And then men, it's their ability to provide. That's pretty consistent across the board in different cultures. So if we just stick to that metric on winning, it really is different. And I think sometimes, this is just different women that I've talked to. You tell me if I'm wrong here, but I think sometimes it's hard for us ladies to want to accept that. That a man at 40 really can restart and pretty much have everything that he may have dreamed of at 20 if his pockets are deep, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I was just gonna say, like, and I think the whole like boss chick narrative thing, like, yeah, if she's 40 and millionaire and has her own business as a boss, like, she's winning, right? And to me, that's not very feminine to be working so hard. It does a lot for your femininity, your mental health, all those things. Women are not meant to be grinding like that, So, I mean, pressure is made for shoulders, not really for hips, It's just
yeah.
So I really believe that, the whole like modern women feminism, and I'm like literally a product of that too. Like, I was, super modern woman, all that, and went after the degrees, the doctors, all that stuff. But luckily, though, I met my husband like really early. So when I was like 23, I met him. So, and we got married when I was like 29. So he had a very huge influence in like my, growth and like how I see the world and, my trajectory. And I'm so glad that I was able to get that correction, because now I see my friends who are like in their 30s and like working so hard to be boss chicks, and they are like exhausted. And I'm like, this is sustainable for right now, but it's not going to be sustainable for when you're like 45 or 50. You're going to be, wanting to kind of let your burdens down. So, yeah.
Well, and hats off to you for being willing to learn, because you have to be willing to take feedback from him to even recognize and be like, hey, maybe there's certain things that I'm believing or operating that maybe aren't helpful. So you had to actually be at a place where you were open enough to take constructive feedback and say, hey, I can adjust. So hats off to you for even doing that, because there's those of us out there who just aren't, any ounce of constructive criticism, even if it's done in love, we just can't take, because we're so combative.
Yeah, so. I think also because, like I said, was earlier in age. When you're like get older, you're stuck in your ways. Like even now, it's like I'm in my 30s now. I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely getting stuck in like ways. But yeah, when you're in that early age, you're coachable, and that's why men seek women that are at that age when it's time to settle down, when they're ready. And I do not blame them. Even like my husband, like when I met him, I still tell him too, I'm like, I think that without me, you would have probably like, your trajectory probably would have been a little like better or faster. Like, I'm not even trying to say like I stunted it, but in a way, kind of, yeah, he probably would have been further along if I hadn't come along. We also have a daughter. So I'm like, if that also hadn't happened, because men literally thrive when they're like in that 40s, 50s, that age where they're just like, going up. Men just get better with age, and that's literally
it's interesting you say that. There's a report, and then after this I'm gonna, because I have a few of the callers and I do appreciate the calling in, but there is, I don't know if it was a study, I have to see if I can dig it up somewhere. It was somewhere I was reading where basically it was saying that men who have families, when it comes to like careers or getting in certain higher earning positions or positions where you have to manage, men with families tend to be prioritized over bachelors. Partially because of image, you know what I mean? It's generally speaking, it's still seen as ideal. When you have a man who's running a Fortune 500 or a company or something like that, you're running big things. You want to know that he's coming for a place that's stable. And so just from a look standpoint, this is why even if you look at politicians, some of them may have crazy sexual practices, but when they come online, it's like, oh, we have this family, or, they're always paired up because they want to portray this image. And so there's still something about this culture where at the end of the day, when it comes to certain positions of power, they like to see men sometimes having the families and the wife and the children, like to know, okay, he's coming from a place of stability. He knows how to manage. And so I think for that, when it comes to career wise, maybe initially it may seem like it's slowing things down, but I think sometimes in the long run, it can be to the person's benefit, to a man's benefit. But then again, this is just this is just based upon that one study that I read. I am not an expert on this, but I think about that, and it does make sense to me.
Yeah, it's something to think about. Thank you so much for letting me on.
Yeah, always a pleasure. Thanks again.
Okay.
All right. So there we have it from one caller, that according to her, as long as a man's pocket is deep enough, then that's all it takes. So you can get started. You can get started at 40, and you work hard enough, I guess, and get as much income as is considered good enough or well enough. Then most women are going to give you women will give you the time of day. I agree with the fact that that is how I think a lot of women are looking at it now. Is that good or valuable? That's a whole nother conversation. But as far as if that's how women are rating men in the dating and marketplace, especially past a certain age, absolutely. It's no different than women who are maybe young and maybe they're incredibly overweight, where men may look at the woman and be like, I don't care how sweet you are, it doesn't matter, like you just need to get the weight off. And and sometimes I think there's just certain things across the board, the genders, where it's like it is what it is. Now maybe that can change. Maybe we can have a conversation about, should it change and how does that look like? Is that healthy? That's a whole nother thing. But by and large, what I've seen across the board is that this is how women are looking at it.